Good evening. This is Tarika Shakir Muhammad with National Network View, and tonight we have the privilege of interviewing Brother Tariq, who is from Dallas, Texas, and calls himself a humanpreneur. But before that, we're going to cut into a tribute to our dear sister, Cicely Tyson, who passed away at the age of 96, but left behind a legend in the theater and arts and entertainment.
Today, we are acknowledging and celebrating the life of Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson was known to all people, but in Black homes, she was a permanent fixture. She was epitomized what it meant to shatter racial stereotypes of how Black women were being portrayed on TV and in the movies by only accepting vivid portrayals of strong African American women in the 1970s. These roles propelled her into stardom and fame as an extremist in the civil rights movement. Cicely Tyson was a natural-born leader, a trendsetter, a beacon of light and hope for her people. Cicely Tyson knew what she represented. An honorary Oscar, 3 Emmys, a pile of Emmy nominations, and a Tony all came her way. Just as fittingly for a woman who willed herself to matter, so did 8 NAACP Image Awards. There will never be another Cicely Tyson. She passed away on January 28, 2021. She was 96 years old.
Absolutely beautiful tribute there to our dear sister, Cicely Tyson. Again, it's Tarika Shakir Muhammad with National Network View, and we have the privilege again of interviewing Brother Tariq from Dallas, Texas. Brother Tariq, how are you?
I'm doing great, sister. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to see you.
It's good. It's good. Yes, absolutely. Likewise. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us on the show.
Absolutely.
So, Brother Tariq, for those who don't know, and I actually don't know the meaning of this term myself, but a humanpreneur, tell us a little bit about that and what you do.
Absolutely. So humanpreneur is a word that I kind of created myself. It's just a combination of the word humanitarian and entrepreneur. And I put those two together because that's pretty much what encompasses who I am as a person. You know, I'm a humanitarian at heart, but I have an entrepreneur mindset. And so I do have a nonprofit organization called World Apparel Co. It's a nonprofit clothing brand that I started with one of my friends from high school. And what we do is we like to use our clothing to bring awareness to certain social issues that are going on around the nation and around the world. We use those proceeds to help donate back to whatever, focus point or cause that it is. And we like to call ourselves a nonprofit because we don't have one certain issue that we focus on like the usual nonprofit. We like to partner up with different nonprofits to help bring funding to them so that we can help them have more supplies or whatever it may be that they may need in the cause of that focus that they're focusing on. I also am an entrepreneur on the sense of that I do have a for-profit business. It's called 93 Supreme, and it's just a creative branding type of business where we just do a lot of creative content and put out a lot of creative works. I have a YouTube. It's called the Black Owned Tour. That's where I do a lot of my work at. We do interviews of just different Black owned businesses around the nation. And we're going on season 2 now. So we just finished season 1, and I'm very proud of, and I want to thank everybody who has helped me out put on that show. It's been a great show, and I can't wait for more.
Praise be to Allah. A little background. What got you started into coming up with these things here?
Yes, so I could just say, I always had an entrepreneur mindset just from the jump. Growing up, I used to go with my next door neighbor, and we used to go around the neighborhood trying to, wash people's cars during the summertime when we were out of school. And even in school, I was always the one selling chips, candy, baking cakes. Me and my cousin, we used to stay up late at night in high school, baking cakes, and then going to school the next day, marketing and branding, and then getting those cakes out. And if anybody knows, whenever you're selling items in school, you really can't do that. So you have to sell out as fast as possible so that you're not caught whether it be in class or in the hallways with the product. And but we branded and marketed ourselves perfectly so that people will always come to us in the mornings before school even started completely, and we would just sell out immediately. But just throughout my whole life, like I would be in different jobs, and you know, I was a hard worker, but I would always think, man, I could do this and make it better. So, you know, that mindset never really kept me in one position long, because I felt like I always outgrew the company too fast, or at least outgrew my position too fast. And there wasn't any positions that they could offer me that would help settle that ease in my mind that I'm doing something that's productive in whatever corporation that I was working for at the time.
Praise be to Allah. And the topic today is going to be page 5 of the Final Call newspaper. We are still here. It delves into pretty much the history of Blacks basically rebelling against that which oppresses them. But it gets into very intricate details, historically speaking. Tell me, what was the first thing that stood out to you about this particular piece?
Wow, yes, absolutely. The piece was very, very well written, and I have to give a shout out to I believe that sister in Saya in Siaya. Anissa. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. Anissa Muhammad. Yes, it's very beautifully well written, and it gave me a lot of information, things that I didn't know about as well. But the first thing I had to say that stood out to me was the impact of Black women in these different rebellions, because you know we think about Black women in their rebellion, and we think about how they just, you know, have been at the forefront, or maybe just, you know, maybe helping out, taking care, or wherever it may be in different avenues of helping out the community. But a lot of these women were in the forefront, on the front lines of leading these rebellions. And then not only that, we have to think about how they were the ones who produced those individuals, whether they be male or female, who grew up to help lead rebellion. So we can't forget about those who produced those leaders as well. And so the Black women who helped, their contribution to our freedoms is what stood out a lot to me in these rebellions as well. And then the second thing that stood out to me was how, excuse me, is how I think it was from the Yamasee War. There were a bunch of soldiers who were trained to use weapons to fight for white colonists. And whenever they were trained, then they turned around using that same knowledge that they received to use those same weapons back against them. And I thought that was ironic, because you would see how sometimes a traumatic situation can end up being a fortunate circumstance and help you, better yourself and create a different change and outcome on that.
I see exactly your point. I'm going to pull from that, the rebellious thing that we get here from this article. How would you say your work as a young entrepreneur, and perhaps for other young entrepreneurs who are getting into the business, how would you say that is a form of a rebellion?
Absolutely. I know definitely just kind of studying my generation in particular, we're just getting tired of being, not appreciated for the amount of work that we've been putting in. We've been they've been fighting for $15 minimum wage since forever, even just before my generation was born. And they're just now really even thinking about raising it, and it's still not equivalent to the cost of living that we have going on right now in society. Even if you make $15 an hour, you're still barely making enough just to live, and you have to be living in some of the worst conditions possible to even make it through. And I feel like a lot of people are just getting tired of working for others, not getting the appreciation that they deserve, and then getting tossed out just as fast. The one thing that just stands out to me, is just crazy to me in a job situation, is whenever you want to, resign, they want you to put in a 2 weeks notice in order for you to be hired again if you ever want to come back to the company. But when they want to fire you, they can fire you on the spot and make you fend for yourself, out here in the world. They don't tell you, hey, we're thinking about letting you go in 2 weeks. You might want to start looking for another job. They just fire you. Just fire you. And so I feel like a lot of people are picking up on just certain things that these companies do that is really just, nonsense. And they're just not wanting to deal with that anymore. So they're all starting to kind of rebel, using that word from the article, just rebel and start doing for themselves. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching us, and teaching us through the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan all these years, to do for ourselves. And people are starting to wake up and really see how important it is for us to do for ourselves, because even with everything else going on, there's some things that we may not want to be forced to do, that we could be forced to do in the future, that could keep us from having our jobs and having us, a source of income. And people are starting to realize that. So they want to put themselves in positions to where they can say, no, I'm not going to do this, or no, I'm not going to do that, and not have any dire consequences, because they know they got to feed themselves, feed their families, put a roof over their heads, etc.
Yes, I see that. And I'm going to go back to the article in a quote where it says, contrary to some false narratives, Black folks do not sit idly by as victims or cowards. So this, what you had just spoken about, is not a relatively new topic or theory or anything at all. It's something that we've just, at this point in time, we're delving even more and more deeper into, and finding the necessity out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just starting it off in the article from 1526 with Lucas Vasquez, the revolts that started happening there with the help of our Native American brothers and sisters. That they helped us, start burning down Spanish settlements and things of that nature. And so we've definitely been, not sitting idly, like I said, towards white supremacy. And I realized that in the article, we've been fighting for our freedom since the beginning of, just the start of this slave trade, if you will. And so I found that quite interesting, because I saw how it started to change. And I don't necessarily know why it was changing in that nature, of changing from, very physical, rebelling and killing and trying to slaughter and get our way out, to a more of a mentality thing. It went from, slaughter to, okay, how can we mentally become strong and become mentally free? But I respect it, because if we're not mentally free, even if say, we were to free, a group of us were to free all the slaves, if they're still mentally enslaved, they would just run back to the slave master.
Right.
And so I feel like under Allah's will, it was that process that had to happen that way in particular, because like I said, if we weren't mentally free, we would just run right back to the slave master. So we had to have people introduce to us a new way of thinking, and a new way of being able to, rebel without doing it just physically, because once we do it physically, we still got to rely on ourselves to rebuild ourselves. And we can't rebuild ourselves mentally, then we might as well just go right back to the slave master.
That's a very interesting point. I didn't quite see it that way. I'm looking at it more in the like Nat Turner type of thinking. We got to do, or we're going to die. You put it in such a way where it's more empathetic, and I see that. And in light of that, I was wondering what kind of response, or what has been the reception with the businesses and the program that you're pushing.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's been pretty well. With Word Apparel, we started in 2016. And when we started off, it's been actually a pretty good uphill battle. We have been having a lot of good feedback from the community. We have actually started to partner more with different community organizations, like have more solid partnerships. Because normally when we partner with different organizations, it's just like a limited partnerships where we help them out. We do what we do, and then we move on to the next. We still keep ties in with those, certain partnerships, but now we're starting to have these different partnerships that are actually like solid with them, where we're always in the loop of what they're doing. One of them is a community organization out here who does great work. It's called 4 Oak Cliff. It's out here in Oak Cliff, and Oak Cliff is an area that they would probably call one of those murder capitals and whatnot. But the community organization has been there for Oak Cliff. Shout out Taylor Toynes as well. He has been a very huge helping hand in that community of not only just bringing resources, but he's actually a listening ear. He grew up in that community, and he's somebody who actually who doesn't judge the kids that are in there, because that's a lot of the that's the biggest problem that comes within our community, is that a lot of people want to judge the kids, especially the old heads, if you will, want to judge the kids. And they don't want to listen because they don't want to feel judged. But he's been kind of rerouting that stigma to where now the kids are able to kind of open up and say, man, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I feel the way that I feel, and I'm acting and I'm lashing out and doing, and acting a certain way in my communities, because I'm dealing with all of these different things. They're finally able to open up. At that community center, Word of Pearl, we actually put on a mental health panel there, and we gave people opportunity to come out, and we partnered up with Wellness Within, with Dr. Nima Moore, and she brought out, it was her and her partner who also came out, and they were both licensed social workers, and so they were able to give people a free therapy session. So it was, and then from that free therapy session, they were able to be rerouted to, more sessions, whether it be free or however the case may be. They I don't have all the details in there because that's private, but they were able to be directed towards a session. And so we got great feedback from that, because it was a lot of people who were like, man, yeah, I was on the brink of this or on the brink of that, or feeling real, in a dark place here. But because I came to your event, I was able to express myself. I was able to talk to somebody who was able to help me kind of rope some things together. And so the feedback that we get, and we also went to Flint, Michigan as well, and gave out a bunch of shower head filters. And we've been doing this ourselves, and we got a lot of good feedback every single time that we do something, or every single time that we partner up with an organization. We always get great feedback. And that's the one thing that keeps me going, is the great feedback that I get from, just different people who are either a part of different organization or is out in the community by themselves. So
we have to thank you for your wonderful work, especially with the youth, and inspiring them to become better entrepreneurs and contributors to their community as well. To those tuning in, thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Again, we're talking with Brother Tariq here from Dallas, Texas. And we'll be back shortly after our first break.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture, as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning back in with NNV News. Tariq Shakir Muhammad with the Final Call Cover Story Report. And we have with us Brother Tariq from Texas here. Again, you said that you are a humanipreneur. I hope I said that correctly this time.
Yes.
Okay, good. And he shared with us a very intricate story about how he started in the entrepreneur business and helping the youth today pursue their dreams as entrepreneurs as well. And we're connecting it to the Final Call cover story, page 5, We Are Still Here, which goes into detail about the story of Blacks throughout history rebelling against their oppressors. Brother Tariq, there is a quote in here I'm so excited to get into it, see what you think about this. But this last quote of the article where it says, "Despite it all, we are still here." And I'll say it again. I'll say it slowly, she said. Despite it all, we are still here. That's the message. We are unconquerable. Tell me your thoughts on that quote right there.
Yes, that quote stood out to me as well, sister. I kind of wrote up a little summary too in my notes whenever I was reading that, because I was like, wow, that really is something that's a powerful few words there. We are still here.
Yes.
And when I think about that, I thought about everything that we have been through just from 1526 and leading up to now, and just coming from Master Fard Muhammad, finding the Nation of Islam, giving us the Do for Self program through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as it says, or as it states in the article, with Brother Kwame Ture, as it states in the article as well, and all the many different leaders still fighting. We're still here fighting, and it shows our resilience. It shows our resilience that we have, and it shows how fed up we are of white supremacy and living underneath our oppressor. We're just tired of it. And the fact that we are still here after all of that, all of that pressure that we've been through, we are still here and we're still fighting, even with all the protests going on. It shows that we're still resilient and we're not comfortable with the situation or condition that we're living in. We want to see change, and we want to see change now. We don't want to see it later. And because of all that, whether you're not you in particular, but just in general, whether someone does or doesn't agree with what's going on, we're still doing something that shows that we aren't comfortable with how we are living and how we're being treated. And so that quote, "We are still here, we're unconquerable," shows that whatever you do, whatever you throw against us, whether it be police brutality, whether it was slavery, whether it's private prison systems, whether it was the crack epidemic. And I didn't even live through that, but I heard enough about it. And that should tell you something then, that I'm hearing enough about it and I can see the effects of it still. But the fact that we're still battling that and we're still getting over these things shows how much that we can it really shows the amount of unity that we have, just even from just a little bit of how much just a little bit of unity can do. And we all know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that our unity, if we were all to unify, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. And so that there alone just shows you, those events show you that how powerful we are as a community, and that we're not going to give up until we get what we want. And when we get what we want it now.
Yes, sir. Aside from of course, you being a living example of what that unification looks like, what are some other examples for, say, somebody who, maybe they're not so much into apparel? I mean, I don't know, wouldn't be, but perhaps they're not just that much into it. What are some other examples that you can think of that progresses us towards that unifying?
Absolutely. So we do a lot of different things. Apparel is just one thing that we use mostly for our target audience, but we unify in many different ways. If you're not interested in apparel, that's why we have many different community events, to where we just try, me and my partner, we just try to be very likable human beings, and so we like to get in with the community just right in there. We don't send others out to do the work for us. We get in there ourselves and we just talk to the people, and we relate to them, and we figure out what the common ground is between us and them. And once we figure it out, then we're able to deliver that, because now we can help them out however it is that they need to be helped out. And it doesn't always have to be apparel. It could be food. It might be, they may like a fish fry. They may want to do community basketball games, or flag football. Whatever it is that we can do to help bring the community out and together to be able to showcase that unity, we figure it out and we go for it. One thing that the partner at Fort Oak Cliff that we have that they do every year is a back to school festival. And they put it on just like a festival, like how Coachella or, any other just famous music festival that you know of. They put it on just like that, and they have it right in Oak Cliff. They don't move it and take it somewhere far away. They put it right there in Oak Cliff because that brings traction. It's like thousands of people that come out, and they give away free backpacks, and they give away free backpacks full of school supplies. And so that right there, that's a common ground for everybody to come together. And if you ever had an opportunity to, just see whether you see a recap or whether you go to one, you can see the thousands of Black people coming together and not doing the things that people believe happens in Oak Cliff, the fighting and the shooting and the gang bang or whatever they want to say. That's not what Oak Cliff is about, and that's not what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so we're able to show that on that day, the peace and the happiness and the unity that coming together, and the whole community just coming together and being able to have a great day and just have a great time as well.
Wow. I don't know why it takes me back, but it takes me back to that Black Chicago Eats that Brother Tory tends to do on the property of Mas Mariam here in Chicago. In Chicago. Yeah, it's 1 degree outside, but yeah. But back when it was about maybe in the 70s, when it was nicer to us, the weather, Brother Tory would host the Black Chicago Eats. And it would just be a bunch of Black vendors on the property, and it would be hundreds. I can at least say, I think I can comfortably say there were thousands of people that would show up to that property. It was so packed. We had lines that just went on for streets, just trying to get in and join in on supporting the Black businesses. So when you mentioned that, that was the kind of vision that came to my head. And I think that we definitely need to see more of that, so that, because a lot of us are visual learners, and we need to see things like that to get a better example of what unifying looks like, and what bringing our resources together in a comfortable environment, what that looks like, and how progressive and successful it can be.
Absolutely.
Well, Brother Tariq, is there anything from the article that stood out to you aside from the other points that we talked about?
See it. No, not at all. Everything, we kind of hit on everything that stood out to me. The most was our resilience, the Black women. I guess what else that stood out to me is whenever they were just talking about, how we don't talk about the successful Black rebellions that have happened in America. We always talk about the ones that happen outside of America. And the question I was asking myself was, I wonder why they do that.
Yeah,
because
that's a good question.
I believe that image of showing that something, that a Black community was able to do something successful, or whether it be rebel or whether it be, fight for their way of freedom successfully in America, gives us that image of hope that we can do it too. And so that stood out to me because he was, I can't remember who, I think it might have been Dr. Milliard, but they were talking about pretty much how, we hear about the Haitian Revolution and how it was successful. We hear about revolutions in Jamaica and how they were successful, but we don't hear about, the Dismal Swamp area in, the Virginia, North Carolina area, where white supremacists and colonialists wouldn't even go towards, because they were like, man, we don't, they were fearing for their lives even going towards that area. But that's where a bunch of Black people were, and where Nat Turner was trying to bring his rebellion to. He was trying to get there to that swamp, because he knew of the safety that was there. They don't talk about the Black Seminoles like that. They mention them a little bit in school, but they don't really get into the detail. Like, I didn't know that they had a successful freedom. That they had a successful rebellion to get to their freedom, and that they even came to a point where they had to, that the states at hand had to create a peace treaty with them, because they were just slaughtering their people back to back to back to back. And so that stood out to me as well, because I was like, I really wonder why they don't tell us these things in school as well. And so just from reading that, I was able to see why, because representation matters, and it matters heavily here.
It's just like Dr. Millward said, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, that there's something with a Black person holding a gun and choosing to retaliate that shakes the foundation of white supremacy to its core.
Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned, I mean, there's a good reason, well, at least on their side, there's a reason why they don't include these things in history, or you can't just readily read about it and find out more information about it. There's a reason. There's a fear behind that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's definitely a fear behind that.
Okay. I think we cut out for a minute, but I'm going to direct the conversation, last comments and commentary with the work that you do. So anything that, anything at all that you would like to say as last comments to this conversation?
Absolutely. So my last comments would just be, first, shameless plug, support Ward Apparel Co., support 93 Supreme, the Black-owned tour. We're doing great things, and we continue to plan on doing great things as well, all over the nation. We're not just confined to our area in Texas. You can reach me if you ever want to just, partner with me or talk about, any type of just partnership or whatever it may be, at Tariq Ray Anthony. It's on the screen there. That's my Instagram. And I'm not gonna put all that, but yeah, Tariq Ray Anthony right there. And but other than that, though, I just want to tell people, just keep staying inspired, and just by staying inspired, that'll help you just learn, just to want to learn more. Stay a student, as the Nation of Islam teaches us. Stay a student. Staying a student for me has helped me, grow in many different aspects, because there were certain things that I didn't think I had interest in until I learned more about it, like film. I didn't think filming was going to be my greatest suit, but I started learning more about it. And because I started learning more about it, I'm actually more interested in it now. So stay inspired, stay resilient as well. As the great Nipsey Hussle says, stay dangerous, and just make sure that you keep pushing forward towards your dreams. There's a YouTuber, he said he posted a video a day for 800 days straight before he really dropped. And so with that, I was like, that's dedication. And so just keep on pushing forward towards your dreams, because it will blow one day. Put those 10,000 hours in.
Thank you very much, Brother Tariq. We're going to go on our second commercial break. This is Tariq Shakir Muhammad with National Network View, the Final Call Cover Story Report. Thank you for tuning in.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App, NNV News.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Thank you for tuning in with us with National Network View. Again, this is Tariq Shakir Muhammad, and we just had the honor of interviewing Brother Tariq, who is from Dallas. He is a humanipreneur, and we had just spoken with him about the page 5 story. We are still here from the Final Call newspaper. Do not forget to subscribe to The Final Call at finalcalldigital.com and be sure to join in on the discussion with us, page 5 of the Final Call newspaper. Thank you, Brother Tariq. We appreciate you very much for joining in on us.
Thank you, and thank you for having me once again. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.